All right, welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the first one of our new IoT webinar series, and we are excited to start with the connected fleet area and different ways to leverage SAP IoT technology to increase efficiency, transparency, and overall process stability. In the next 20 minutes, we are going to guide you through the business pain points and the SAP technology that helps addressing those. Before we get started, let me introduce ourselves, the host of today's session. My name is Matthias Hollenders, and I'm working in the SAP space for more than 10 years, focusing on SAP supply chain management and IoT. I'm now running our global IoT practice. I'm very happy to have my colleague, Vladimir Shapiro, with me, who has a very strong background in industry implementations with applications of IoT, and is now leading our IoT business development in the Americas region. With that, I am now very happy to hand it over to you, Vlad.
Thank you, Matthias, for the introduction. Now, let's start by examining the business value that IoT brings to an organization. These points are consistent across any IoT initiative, so we figured it would be worth mentioning them at the beginning. Any IoT initiative brings incredible amounts of new data that wasn't previously available to the organization. It takes advantage of smart algorithms to make sense of the data and suggest improvements, and it provides integration of data that was previously siloed within an organization. For example, you can incorporate physical asset data, business information, such as sales orders or forecasts, with IT data, for example. This way, getting a holistic picture of the entire company. Together, these improvements allow the organization to make better, faster decisions. This type of data-driven decision-making allows the company to embark on a journey of continuous improvement when you think about it in the long term. In today's webinar, we will show how these concepts apply to fleet management. As we discuss in the next slides, remember that IoT-empowered fleet management can apply to commercial fleets, so think trucks, trains, ships, to warehouse fleets. In this case, it's mostly forklifts. And finally, yard fleets, which is usually a hybrid of commercial and warehouse vehicles. From our team's experience, when it comes to fleet management, the benefits of IoT can be divided into two distinct groups. For the day-to-day value, think of your typical fleet manager. In this case, IoT technology empowers him or her to have live visibility into the minute-by-minute operations of the fleet. They can get alerts if drivers leave approved routes, if they stop for too long, or if they stop in non-permitted areas, which can be as innocent as an afternoon nap, or it can be a serious sign that there have been theft. They can keep track of inventory quality. For example, in the food and beverage industry, a timely response to increased temperature and humidity can prevent spoilage of large batches and save the company reputation and money. And it can adjust arrival times and suggest new routes based on traffic patterns. When it comes to long-term optimization, IoT provides the necessary information to make data-driven decisions for large-scale process improvements. When considering fleets as valuable company assets, an IoT solution can allow to drastically reduce maintenance costs by implementing a predictive maintenance program, for example, which would allow to address weak points before they become full-on problems and really cause the machines to stop functioning as necessary. By analyzing fleet utilization rates and routes, an organization can also drastically cut costs and improve planning capabilities and delivering accuracy. Finally, last but not least, there are a number of incremental benefits that an organization can gain by implementing an IoT solution. For example, by conducting a fuel consumption analysis, this part can also be analyzed, providing incremental benefits for the company. Now that we've looked at the high-level business value, let's take a look at the work that SAP has done in the area. SAP's IoT offerings are part of its Leonardo platform, a buzzword that you've probably heard before, and today we're going to dig a little deeper into the topic. So Leonardo is an ecosystem of innovative solutions that include data intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, big data, analytics, and last but not least, IoT. Built on the SAP Cloud platform, these components can be integrated or used separately, depending on the business needs. Today we'll focus, as we mentioned, on the Internet of Things component of Leonardo, which can be broken up into 6 distinct verticals, as you can see on this slide. We have highlighted connected fleet, assets, and products here, as these are the areas where Westernacher has a proven track record. It's important to note that similarly to Leonardo as a whole, these verticals are not distinct products, but are rather mini ecosystems of interconnected solutions that can be deployed separately or, if necessary, as part of a larger integrated landscape. As we mentioned in the business introduction, we see the key value of SAP's connected fleet as coming from its ability to provide fleet tracking, inventory condition monitoring, and fleet health capabilities. Once we drill down into the connected fleet ecosystem, there are a few solutions that can be integrated either with each other within the Leonardo scope or with other, let's say, more traditional existing digital supply chain solutions. We highlight here vehicle insights, which we'll obviously talk about more today, predictive maintenance and service, and global track and trace. As I mentioned just earlier, these provide value both as standalone solutions or as components of larger landscapes. So today, we will focus on vehicle insights and the functionality that it can offer. A quick disclaimer before we dive deeper into the solution. What we are about to present is our own opinion based on our experience of the solution, which may slightly differ from the official positioning of vehicle insights by SAP. So, that in mind, from a technical perspective, we see the main value of the solution coming from its ability to receive and process incoming and outgoing telematics data from sensors to provide user-empowered device, vehicle, and property configuration, and its ability to organize report groups in really any way you see fit, so from something standard like model or make to really any type of custom groupings that your heart desires. And finally, in its ability to integrate with other SAP solutions. Now, let's talk about the key business value that the system is able to provide. First, you have the Geo-Fence definition, which allows you to define any type of rectangle or polygon through an intuitive user interface. The defined area can be used for event detection and alerting purposes. We have seen this functionality be very useful when it came to defining specific routes for commercial fleets or for monitoring incoming and outgoing vehicles in a busy commercial yard. The event detection capabilities allow you to monitor incoming and outgoing sensor data to keep track of predefined events, such as the relationship of a specific measurement, so think of temperature, to a defined threshold. For example, in an industry that may require that your inventory is carried in below freezing conditions, you can monitor whether the temperature is above or below a threshold, or maybe you have defined a certain range within which the inventory must be transported. And you can also configure events to work with geofences. These events can be configured on a user-by-user basis, which means that they can represent the fleet groupings and information that are most relevant for a specific role that is currently looking at this dashboard. The monitoring and tracking function can really be summarized as the ability to visualize the collected data across any defined report group in a way that is most convenient to the user. So you can get a fleet overview either in a list or a map view. You can get an overview of trips by any defined vehicle or group that you decide to choose. And you can get an overview of the event details containing vehicles and location, again, by any grouping that you decide is most relevant to you. Finally, it has what SAP calls these value-add services. So these are built-in basic data processing capabilities that allow you to interact with the data in a more intuitive way and kind of does that initial analysis for you. So it has trip recognition, which essentially where the system defines what is a single trip. It does a basic distance calculation where by tiering the data, it is able to determine the exact distance of a trip. And it is also able to look at fuel consumption by taking into account a couple of different parameters to calculate what the fuel consumption was for a specific vehicle. So if we think about it as a system as a whole, we've divided it into a few different areas of the type of functionality that you're able to get it as a business user. So you have what we define as available functionality that comes more or less out of the box. With that, you can look at fleet location and movement characteristics. You can define geofences to monitor non-regulation driving or stopping. You can get trip overviews by vehicle or any fleet. You can use driver logbooks, and you can also look at fuel consumption. Now, what will require a bit more customization and work with the system is to get more customer-specific and use case-specific fleet use analytics. So essentially, you will need to define your own KPIs that you want to monitor. And if you want to do any sort of live condition monitoring for the inventory that you're carrying, that will also need some sort of minimal customization. Now, when it comes to smart fleet monitoring, so for example, ETA calculations, delay detections, rerouting assistance, this kind of almost artificial intelligence capabilities, or when you're looking at improving fleet health and predictive maintenance, this is more of an advanced customization integration. So in this case, you would use the system as a technical base that you would then build on with your own team or with an outside team. So with that in mind, I will now quickly show the system demo that we have developed for one of our customers. Keep in mind that this is just an example. You can really make anything you want out of it, but we just wanted to give you a feel of what is possible. What you can see here is an initial dashboard of the system. We have, as requested by the user here, the first view that you see is a truck. So in this case, this truck is moving, I believe this is Minneapolis, so it's going northwest in this case. And we have defined three basic KPIs here. So you can see the distance it covered in the last 24 hours. You can see how long it's moved for, and you can see how long it stood for in the past 24 hours. Again, keep in mind that these can be whatever you want to be, but what is nice is that they happen in a Fiori interface. Now, if we zoom in into a specific vehicle, we can get some of the more specific characteristics of what they are. So here you can see the metadata on the specific truck that we're monitoring. So you can get license plate and even the name of the driver. From an inventory monitoring perspective, we have here monitoring temperature based on a threshold that we've defined. So we've said that as long as it's within this range with 25 degrees Celsius, it's still green, no actions needed. We've also looked at humidity, whether the humidity needs to be transported, whether the inventory, needs to be transported within a certain range of humidity. What we also have defined from monitoring the fleet itself is, for example, acceleration alerts. So is the driver behaving properly? How many times has he maybe accelerated too fast or stopped too quickly? Because if this is a repetitive behavior, this can become a problem. What we also monitor, and this is an easy thing to set up, is door openings. So if we, for example, know that the truck door should only be open at the time of loading and at the time of unloading, anything that happens in between, if we see any action in this specific KPI, that can be an immediate signifier of a big problem. It can mean that the inventory is being tampered with. It can mean that there's a problem with the door, or in some cases, it can mean that there's theft. Both of which, for all of these, it would allow the fleet manager to respond more quickly. Here we have also shown you that we can keep track of more mechanical things, such as message counts in the past hour, and we can get basic data on the truck. So is it moving right now? When is it the last time that it moved? And the current speed. So as we mentioned, the purpose of this is to get the fleet manager a live view of what is happening, rather than having them rely on manual IT input. So with that in mind, I think that is a good, nice little overview of the dashboard. So I will now hand it over to Matthias for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Vlad. Before we close the session, I want to give you a bit of an overview of Westernacher's experience in the transportation space. And we have served customers from basically all industries implementing state-of-the-art SAP transportation management solutions with a focus on new innovations in areas that no one has worked in before. This includes projects such as end-to-end supply chain management implementation for an e-commerce grocery delivery customer, including connected fleet management, but also forklift fleet management implementations. What we see very often when talking to our customers is a fundamental understanding of the relevance of IoT for their corporation, but huge question marks when it comes to relevant use cases for their business. This confusion is something we want to address with some very attractive offerings, such as an IoT inspiration workshop, which is free of charge and will help you to understand and develop first ideas for relevant use cases. If there's already a need to go beyond an inspiration and get started with tangible results, such as a prototype, we also offer 2 starter workshops, which help to get deep into the individual use case definitions and technology aspects, and for the premium version also include concrete roadmaps and a high-level business case. Something I want to highlight is the hands-on character of these events, where we want everyone to get in touch with the technology and its SAP integration. So feel free to contact us for further information if you're interested. Having said that, we are now very excited to answer all the questions that we have collected. So let me see. The first question that's coming in is, will those IoT applications be built on cloud or on-premise technology? But maybe something you can answer.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So overall, the best way to implement this is to do it in the cloud because of the collaborative nature of these solutions. So because it usually involves the cooperation of more than one party, either within the company or also with external parties in general, cloud is really the better part of the solution.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah. And in addition to that, so basically also SAP's strategy is to have everything in the core. Basically, that is your finance processes, so everything that needs to be fully stable, basically in the on-premise world, so the digital core. And everything that is more innovative and requires agile and fast implementations, this is rather than in the cloud. So certainly then also in that case, IoT applications, which are the more innovative ones, need to be in the cloud in most of the cases.
And then another question that I'm seeing, Matthias, is if the company currently doesn't have already pre-set up sensors on some of their machines, what is the best way? What kind of partners would they work with to get that initiative going?
That's a very good question. Actually, we receive this very often. So technology and hardware basically is a huge aspect that needs to be taken into consideration. And we are heavily working here with hardware consulting partners that help us in those workshops that we also offer to really understand the setup of your warehouse, of your transportation, whatever, wherever you want to use IoT in the connected fleet space, in our case right now, and really understand what is the best technology. And this is really where we bring our hardware consulting partners with us. Okay, I see a few more questions coming in. So one question is, since this introduced recently, how many clients are already using this? Basically, there are already many customers using this all over the world. Starting, I think, in Australia up to the US, there's a huge number of references already out there when we're talking about, for example, in that case, SAP Vehicle Insights. So I don't know the exact number, but these are definitely many. But certainly, I think we can maybe also get in contact with you and then talk a bit more about the references itself.
And then another question I'm seeing is how can a fleet manager respond to the driver who has crossed over some parameters? So great question. The short answer is it depends on how you want to set it up. So what we've done before is the driver was connected via their mobile device. So they were either contacted by voice, essentially by a phone call, or they could have been messaged on their phone. But there are different implementation possibilities. For example, if your drivers are often in areas that have spotty signals, what we can also use is radio frequency to contact the drivers. But I think that would warrant a longer and separate conversation. But I guess the short answer would be there's a few different options.
Mm-hmm. And there's a follow-up question to the one that I just answered, whether there's any European client. So when we're talking about, in general, connected fleets, and not only SAP Vehicle Insights, certainly there are also a lot of European clients, but also for SAP Vehicle Insights. So one that we have, for example, implemented is the one that I just introduced, an e-commerce home delivery company that is using connected fleets to monitor their fleet, delivering all of their grocery products to the individual customers. And this is based out of Norway.
So I am seeing a few different questions about the hardware, and I think that this is best done offline. It would be great if we can set up a separate conversation, just because we wanted to do this more of a high-level introduction, and because the scenarios vary so much from client to client, I think it's best that we zero in on the specific use case.
Fully agree. Also, in terms of infrastructure, I would also say let's do this offline. With that, I think so far we have covered all questions, apart from those that we just mentioned. Happy to get in touch with you offline. Feel free to contact us. We have all contact details also mentioned here. Even if you now have questions coming up after the session, feel free to reach out to us. So thank you very much for joining the session today. Please, as mentioned, watch out for our next IoT webinar. As I said, it's a series of many more IoT webinars that is upcoming. So I'm looking forward to welcome you back. Thanks again, and have a great day or evening wherever you are. Goodbye, and see you soon.